I just want to let you know as we begin to record this program that if you do not wish to appear in the recording, you simply have to make sure your audio and video are disabled at all times. Anything that you place in the chat will not be in the recording. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and then Maggie, you are free to take over.
Thanks so much, Brooke and Panaga. You guys are just amazing. I am so grateful to be here with you for our 7th session. Can you believe it? We have been bringing together these monthly programs to our not only local San Antonio community since January, but we were even doing these last year. So we're so grateful for the San Antonio Public Library to be hosting these programs online, and also for the Mayor's Fitness Council here in San Antonio to recognize programs such as these as critical, not only for our local community, for our family and friends to get together as we learn and explore new ways for us to thrive in body, mind, and spirit well-being. So thanks so much, Brooke. Hello, everyone. Hello and namaste. My name is Maggie Gruskin, and I'm here in San Antonio. Today, we're going to be talking about yoga for your doshas, a continuation from last month's talk about the different styles of yoga and which styles do you do. So welcome everybody, Lynn, Meredith, I love you all. Thank you also for joining us. And so today, if you registered, you should have gotten the worksheet. Every session we have a worksheet that you can follow along with, or just take out your wellness journal. We encourage you to start another wonderful journal to think about new ways how yoga and Ayurveda can become a part of your everyday self-care routine. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen as we begin our conversation today on Discover Self-Care through Ayurveda, yoga to balance your doshas. It is my honor and privilege to be here to begin this conversation about yoga, the different styles, and how we can empower our own self-care and wellness routines by choosing those styles which most impact the state of health or imbalance that we're currently in. So with that, let's get going to review the future classes. If you have missed the classes from before, you can check out the San Antonio Public Library YouTube channel. You can just go to youtube.com/user/mysapl for the recordings from all the previous sessions to catch up and learn more details of our previous talks on the basics of Ayurveda and its connection to yoga. So this month we're looking at yoga for your doshas, and next month emotional freedom. Always on the second Wednesdays at 12 noon Central Daylight Time. So we hope you will add that to your calendar and join us every month. So to begin with, if you take out your review notes, we'll just go over some basics on what is Ayurveda, in case this might be your first time joining us. I see a lot of people here are new to Ayurveda, so we always love our new members, our new friends to come and join us. Perfect. So Ayurveda means the science of life, or the knowledge about the lifespan, and it's estimated to be about 5,000 years old or even older, because it began as this verbal practice, this wisdom tradition passed on from one teacher to one or a few students. Now, Ayurveda is a holistic healing system, and it uses all 5 senses with this goal and focus of wholeness in our health, in body, mind, and spirit. And its emphasis is on our awareness, right? Our level of conscious awareness. And the 5 senses become sort of our portals, our focus of how we can pull the different levels that keep us on track to balance and achieve that dynamic balance in our body and mind well-being. So, Ayurveda and yoga. You might be familiar with yoga as those funny pretzel-y poses that we do on the mat. Well, Ayurveda is known as its sister science. They're both about the same age, and basically yoga is that practice of cleansing the body, improving the space between our joints, the space between our minds and thoughts as a way of purifying the body and prepping it so that we can then utilize the practices from Ayurveda to then heal the body and the mind. And together, these sister sciences work amazingly well together. So what you should know about Ayurveda is that you don't have to be vegetarian. You don't even have to love Indian food. And if you don't practice yoga or meditation, it's okay. You do though need to care about your health, your mind body state of wellness. You do need to want to be in harmony with nature, accepting and acknowledging that we are a part of the beautiful outer environment of our body in nature and being in harmony with it. And we do need to have this idea or realization that we want to balance our daily life. So if those apply to you, if you're curious about learning more about how these ancient traditions can apply to our modern lifestyles, let's bring that curiosity and interest so that we can create and cultivate the best lives through our daily habits. So we'll begin with the ABCs of awareness, and then bringing that focus to now, and then choosing. So awareness, bringing us to now, and then embodied wise choices. So beautiful. So a real quick recap for those that are new with us. At the very foundations of Ayurveda, the science of life, is recognizing that at our most minute aspect of being, we all, as well as the stellar dust in the universal stars, come from the 5 elements known as these Mahabhutas. So they're space and air and fire and water and earth. So when these combine, when you have elements that combine and come together, if you remember from physics experiments, when you try to push elements together, there's an energy that comes up. So when we're talking about the elements, those are the source from which the 3 doshas come into being. So the 3 doshas represent my unique essence or qualities and tendencies. So we want to look at the elements where everything comes from, that we all share these 5 elements and the qualities with these elements. That's the most important part. And then understanding that the qualities come together and they form these sort of metabolic ideas of energy known as Vata, Pitta, and Kappa. So if you don't know what your doshas are, Brooke has put in the chat where you can take an online quiz to understand a little bit more about what a dosha is and how it's showing up for you right now. So if you do know your dosha, go ahead and put it in the chat so we can see what kind of energetic bodies we have joining us today. You can just type in the chat. Awesome, we've got a Kappa joining us today. Mostly Vata, love it. All we need now is someone with Pitta. That's me. I've got a little flavoring of most of them, but it's such an important part for us to understand the value of knowing self, especially if we're looking to embark on new adventures into behavior change. Wellness, right? Our journey into wellness and whole mind, body well-being. If we don't first start with this question of who am I? And if we're not self-aware of knowing our characteristics, our natural tendencies, then how are we choosing those behaviors and activities and fitness and food that we think will nourish us? So at the very foundation, the genius of Ayurveda and yoga as they work together is to understand the gunas, right, that we talked about, the nature, the qualities behind the doshas and the elements. And so there are 20 gunas, 10 pairs of opposites, which are these qualities of natures. So as we understand ourselves through our qualities, and like a fingerprint, our doshas represent our energetic imprint. This is what nature has kind of crafted us to be. Now, can we bring that out into the world and choose most appropriately what will be most balancing, most nourishing? Because as we know, yoga means to unite or to yoke, to bring together that mind and body. So we want to be aware and conscious beings of first knowing ourselves, and then to yoke, to unite that which will be most nourishing, which will be most balancing to my current state of mind, body, well-being. And so that's the art and practice of bringing together these sister sciences of Ayurveda and yoga as one of the tools and methods by which Ayurveda looks to balance and revitalize our entire well-being and essence. So, as Ayurveda and yoga are considered sister sciences, let's delve now today into yoga as a main pathway for us to work with the instrument of our body and to customize our pathway into mind body well-being. So if you have your worksheet, go ahead, and at the bottom it asks, what do I want to learn from today's session? So just take a moment and write that down to make sure that we're going to answer your top questions. And then at any time, please put in the chat any questions you may have, and we will review them at the conclusion of the presentation today. Also, write down your dosha scores if you know them, or take the quiz online later and write them down. So as we begin to focus now on the Ayurvedic lifestyle, as yoga is a main part, whether you do it every day, whether you do it 3 times a day, or maybe we're only doing it when we go on vacation. Let's look at all the different styles that we talked about in last session. There's the Hatha, the Laya, the Bhakti, the Karma, the Raja, Jnana. There's so many different styles. One of my yoga teachers said, if you can imagine a big old ancient tree and imagine all the big roots and the big branches that come off from the tree, those are the main schools of yoga. And then not only that, each main school is going to have different big branches coming off of that. So each main school, like Hatha yoga, may have other branches coming off of that. And those other branches could be a teacher that creates their own yoga style. And then within that own branch, there might be 100 yoga teachers that teach that yoga style from that branch, from the bigger branch from the trunk. So I would love to invite you to envision your journey into exploring yoga, to not just try one yoga class, but to remember that there are so many different styles of yoga that it's like just exploring. I was going to say a candy store, but let's go to the vegetarian section, the veggie section in our healthy store, and look at all the beautiful bright colors of all of the local and seasonal fruits and vegetables that are there for us to try. And even though they may all be healthy, they may all be a good option, knowing which one is most effective for us in our unique dosha nature, and we'll go into that in a moment, and which state of balance or imbalance we're in. So it's an amazing opportunity for us to dive into being fully aware and present with who we are and what our current needs are, and to no longer be unaware of the unmet needs that are taking place in our mind and body. So, all right, let's dive in. As we continue, a reminder of our starting point. So when we're looking at deciding which style of yoga to look at, we always want to remember the 2 aspects to our dosha. And that is the prakruti, which is our individual constitution, sort of our fingerprint, right? Like the little fingerprint, that is what we are. That is who we are, as this energetic vibration from the 3 doshas, the Vata, the Pitta, and the Kappa. That's how nature made us. And the question now is, Are we staying in a sort of dynamic balance around that aspect of who we are by nature? Or is lifestyle and the stressors sort of pivoting us and keeping us in a state of dis-ease or not in congruence with our nature? And that might come from the jobs that we are currently working in. That might be from the foods that we consistently eat. That might be from the types of exercises that we do because they may not be good for our nature. But why are we choosing to do what we're doing? Why are we picking the fitness program, the diet program? So understanding that we can have a good goal, but if it's not effective, we're going to possibly go into the cycle of failure in our motivational patterns. So we want to prep ourselves to start off with the right why, the right reason to be practicing yoga, and then the right style. So lifestyle can take us away from our natural way of our nature. So our current state of balance is viewed as this vikruti, and that's where we want to operate from at all times. So we consistently make sure that we make the best decisions, the most effective decisions to minimize the imbalance or the tendency to spiral out from our own nature. Right? So that's a lot going on there. But for those that are new to this group, we always go through kind of the basics of Ayurveda and the doshas. So when we looked, last month at yoga styles, we asked the question of why do you do yoga? So what are your reasons? What are your top reasons for doing yoga? If you want to write that down, you can write it down on your worksheet, the page 2, or just write it down on your piece of notebook, your wellness journal. So being aware of our reasons is great. It helps to empower us to refine them and optimize them for those more effective methods and strategies. And it always is a great reminder of what is the game we're playing today and in my whole life. So we just remember to check in with our daily choices, if they're serving me or if they're contributing towards this chronic state of dis-ease, unease with my own nature. So just check your gut. Check how these questions are reflecting in your intuition. And so recognizing, what are you trying to get from yoga? That's really important first. So, according to Yoga Alliance, we shared last time, the top reasons most practitioners do yoga is for stress relief, pain relief, better breathing, of course, flexibility. Everybody wants flexibility, increased strength, especially the older we get, right? And that weight management, improved circulation in our joints, cardiovascular conditioning, if you're doing the vinyasa, the faster styles of yoga, maybe focusing on the present moment, and then experiencing that state of inner peace. So did any of these show up for you? Do you want to add any more of these to your list? So let's just get clear on our goals so we can get clearer on pathways to effective motivational techniques. Perfect. Oh yeah. Flexibility and stress. Those are awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Now, last time we also talked about the different styles of yoga. And if you want to go deeper into these particular common styles of yoga, you can watch the video from last month. But real quick, just kind of check these. These are the types of yoga that are very common now in America and are growing around the world. With Hatha. Hatha just means the sun moon. So it's the physical postures. So Hatha just means physical postures, and it can take a lot of different varieties and styles. So if you hear Hatha, it just means physical postures. And then Vinyasa means the flowing, continuous flowing style that moves between postures with the breath, with the inhalation and the exhalation, where Iyengar is like very focused on the stability of the pose, using props and blocks and chairs and everything for the alignment. An Ashtanga, wow, is all about power, vigorous school of yoga. So that's definitely one to check out. Bikram is the one you probably heard of, practiced in a heated room of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Vini Yoga is a wonderful therapeutic style, which is gentle and repetitive and focuses not only on the body and the mind, but the soft tissue and then the healing of the body. And Kundalini is also a flowing style of yoga, emphasizing breathing, power, and that Agni, so stoking the fire of our energy. And Kripalu incorporates both the emotional and spiritual aspects, similar to like a psychotherapeutic approach to yoga, which is my jam. That's where I'm at, exploring that and taking yoga off the mat, understanding that what we practice on the mat prepares us for what we face off the mat, right? It's a beautiful concept, first promoted by Sean Korn, a beautiful, amazing yoga teacher. You can search her you can Google her, Sean Korn. And then Anusara is similar to Iyengar with the alignment, but it also incorporates other practices like chanting and breathing. And then Sudarshan Kriya is all about the cleansing techniques. Kriya is the cleansing, the actions of cleansing, breathing, different ways to detox. So check out any of those. What resonated with you? Write it down. That resonated. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to become self-informed and see where there may be some of these teachers in my area. All right. So as we move on, we begin to now look at the practice on the mat, how that can be united. It can be yoked with who we are as the practitioner, both on the mat, doing the physical postures, and then the characteristics that we can now embody through the essence that we experience on the mat. So what we practice on the mat can help cultivate the energy or the qualitative aspect of being that we would like to be off the mat. So it is this practice of knowing self, begins with awareness, and then being in the moment to then explore all the potential options and then choosing. So awareness, being in the moment, and then more wisely choosing for our unique needs. So when determining the right kind of yoga practice that's right for you, the most important factor is to know, where am I not in balance? Not being so routine in our way of practicing and showing up for the same yoga class, even though we may love it. We may love the teacher. We may love how we feel, but too much of a good thing, like a warm little fire, can blaze out of control, or a nice little gentle breeze can turn into a tornado, or a nice comfy nap can turn into, we don't know how to get off the sofa. So remembering ourselves as these energetic qualities. And that's how we're going to look at it. That's how we're going to flow with looking at how to pick and explore with new different styles of yoga. So in general, someone who has a lot of this Vata energy, you're going to want to look at a gentle, balancing type of yoga, something that's going to be calming. So if you think of Vata as that air, you want to bring it down and ground it. And someone that has a lot of that Pitta energy out of balance, you're going to want to bring that blaze down, bring the heat down, right? Calming, quieting, and cooling. So even the characteristics, you can hear the sound of the characteristics and observe the classes and what are the characteristics of the class. And then for people who have a lot of the Kappa energy, then we're going to want to kind of invigorate and stimulate and sort of break up that accumulation of too much of the elements which make up Kappa, which are, anybody? Earth and water, right? Earth and water. All right, so that's it. That's how our secret formula, and remembering that each individual is going to have different needs. Honor our uniqueness. We're like a flower that's unique. Let's not look to our friend and say we're the same, because we're not. Although we'd love to be in the same class, let's honor, even more importantly, how we show up as our unique style of flower and what we need to nurture that so we can blossom into our own radiance. So let's get going. You guys ready? So review of the Vata. In this last part, we can look at doshas, the worksheet, doshas to balance. We're going to look at the breathing, the general styles of yoga, and then yoga postures for the Vata, the Pitta, and the Kappa. Or just take notes, whatever resonates with you to take note. And of course, please share your questions or comments in the chat, and our lovely Brooke is reviewing those. So Vata is a combination of the two elements of space and air. So we want to remember the characteristics of those so we can then use the opposite characteristics as we go about to balance them. So Vata is about movement, but when there's excessive movement, we want to make sure that we balance that. So let's begin by first self-awareness. Observe, am I in a balanced state right now? Or am I imbalanced? So as a general review for Vata energy, if that shows up a lot in your dosha prakruti, your nature, but if it's too much right now in your vikruti, let's look at those differences. So in balance, Vata is like that gentle combination of these two elements, space and air. So think of energetic, creative, and adaptable, like that gentle breeze. Shows initiative, communicates well, spontaneous, enthusiastic, lively. Can you feel that? Balanced. But too much of the space and air elements can lead to an imbalanced state of overactive mind, perhaps anxiety, worry. We're inconsistent. We're flip-flopping in decisions, right? Insomnia, too much worry or thought. We can't rest. Or in our body, perhaps constipation, gas or bloating, or that general sense of fatigue. So first know, am I balanced or imbalanced? And then we can say, all right, let me explore some options. So as we begin to explore the different options for the different styles of yoga, each of the doshas have a seat, a primary place where they show up in our body. So it's really good to know that. So for the asana, that's going to be the lower abdomen and the pelvis and the large intestines. So the style of yoga is going to be one that is calming and grounding. And the types of breathing that we want to be doing is just the calm, easy, balanced form of breathing. So as we look at the types of yoga, again, it's going to be calming and grounding. We want to reduce sort of that spacey, agitated, or nervous aspect of too much flowing. So slower postures. And those postures that strengthen the lower back are going to be great to alleviate this Vata imbalance. Now, some helpful poses. So if you're already familiar with yoga and some of the postures, we'll just share a few for each. So Uttanasana is the standing forward bend. And those are going to be really, really good for Vata, balancing that Vata, because you're standing on your feet, you're grounded, right? Your shoulders above your hips, and then you stand forward as you extend out, making sure that you don't overextend, you bend your knees slightly, and then you relax and you let go. So grounded in your being, relax and let go. So all standing postures tend to be grounding if awareness is placed on the feet. So even standing here, as I'm standing in my desk, we can place awareness in just standing on our feet. Remove your shoes and feel the four corners of your feet and press the four corners into the ground as you lift your toes. What we're doing there is honoring that connection back between the body and the earth, right? We want to minimize that spacey air, balancing by the opposite gunas, the qualities of the earth, so the grounding. So beautiful. And just remember, caution on injuring your low back. Bend the knees anytime you're folding. All right, second one is Balasana. Everybody loves child's pose. So you can look that up, child's pose. It's another wonderful one because it's going to bring compression to the pelvis region, to the Vata region. So feeling that safety, that groundedness. You can even put a blanket so you're resting on the blanket. Can you feel that relaxation? Oh, you're connected to something besides space and air. So bringing that compression to any of those compressing, folding postures are going to also be good for constipation and for chronic gas. All right. So standing forward bend and child's pose. And then let's do one more, Urasana. So Urasana is that bow pose, right? That bow pose. So it's the one where you're on your belly, and as you're reaching your legs up behind you, you're reaching for your ankles. So you're becoming like a bow. Can you feel that? It extends the low back. So again, this places pressure on the pelvis. So it's going to be great. Again, being gentle, not to overdo it. And this is going to be great and wonderful for the maximal relief of Vata, almost as you feel the air is being squeezed out while we're grounding our pelvis and our abdominals into the ground and opening our chest. So that is for the Vata, to balance some of the Vata. It's going to be wonderful. Now for Pitta, let's look at the next slide is going to be remembering, what is Pitta? Pitta is a combination of the two elements of fire and water. So when we're balanced, again, let's look at, are we balanced? Are we imbalanced? So in a balanced state for the Pitta energy, and remember we say we have Pitta energy. It's not another identifier. I have Pitta energy. It's not like I am. We all have all the doshas. They just show up in different combinations for us. So when we're balanced, imagine that nice, wonderful, warming fireside, at the beach or at home. So when you're balanced, you might feel bright and warm and friendly, right? You're chit-chatting, you're focused, you're intelligent, you're decisive, you're a natural leader. And in the body, you might feel this strong sense of digestion, and you're very passionate, that fire, passionate purpose. But again, too much generally of that fire can lead us into the state, the vikruti, of an imbalanced state of being. So how does that show up in our qualities? So does this affect anybody? Perhaps maybe even in the summer, as our outer body can also now exhibit more pitta energy, right? Are we aware of this connection? So we may experience more anger, more irritability, perhaps more critical, maybe judgmental because only I can do it as well as this. So I'm just going to take back all the projects because I can do it better. Anybody do that? Or maybe in the body, how does the fire show itself? Through skin, maybe rashes or inflammation in our joints, in our brain, in our gut, or indigestion of some sort. So again, awareness of self, and then we bring it to the focus, to the now. Where am I, balanced or imbalanced? And then we begin to look at the conscious choices, being that conscious choice maker of what's going to be most nourishing for me. And let's explore some options, not just keep doing what we're doing. So the general styles to approach for Pitta, again, we want to calm that excessive fire, right? Is calming and not overly heating. Calming and not overly heating. So a lot of the Pitta energy is always about intensity and competition, which can translate into that mental Pitta energy of anger and resentment. So practicing these poses can help us reduce things like ulcers and hyperacidity, liver disease, and acne. So as we heal the body, it starts to heal other systems. So the site for the Pitta, we always kind of want to know, where is the Pitta energy showing up? And that is sort of in the navel area. So the digestive area is really key for Pittas. So asanas, the postures that will help bring balance to the Pitta energy, are going to be the ones that place pressure on the navel and solar plexus, okay, and the small intestines. So these will affect the liver and the spleen and will help to regulate that agni, that digestive fire. We want it naturally healing and nurturing. All right, so let's take a little peek at some of the actual postures to use, which number one is Ustrasana. Ustrasana, which is the camel pose, where you're sitting on your knees and then you're reaching back to grab your ankles. So this is very beneficial for Pitta, as it's focusing on extension of the lower back. And then as you're gently extending your neck, remembering to breathe, it's going to open up the abdomen to bring more space into that abdomen and the solar plexus and chest, and allow for more freer movement of the energy. So just dousing the fire a little bit with that. So again, be careful of the low back and try to do it with the attitude of not competition, but healing. Tap into the quality of water. Just flow gently with these postures. And then Bujangasana, so cobra pose. You're laying on the floor, your hands are right by your shoulders, and you're gently just reaching up. So for those with less flexibility, you can stay there. For others, you can push up as you allow your whole torso to extend. So it's a beautiful stretch to the abdominal region, if you can feel that chest and abdomen as it's coming off the floor. So it can be held just for a breath or two and then coming back down. So just that gentle extension and then coming back down. Gentle flowing extension. Okay, so those are 2 for Pitta. 3, the camel pose, the cobra pose, and the one we just, Urasana. So Urasana is also great. The bow pose, because it's also, same as Vata, because it's also putting pressure on the pelvis and allowing us to move. Okay, so there we go for those. And then just one caution for Pittas. If we have a lot of Pitta energy in our system, we want to perhaps avoid headstand for the Pitta aggravated. Because when we do Pitta, a lot of that pressure and heat can come into the head and neck region. So we want to undo that accumulation of the heat in the head and the eyes, because the eyes are really associated with the Pitta energy. It's the organ which is controlled by Pitta. So it can worsen diseases of the eye, conditions of the eye, and the heat in the head. So that's just a caution for excess Pitta. And then let's go to Kappa as we go into our last segment. So Kappa, again, let's look at its source elements of water and earth, equal portions water and earth. So the first question we want to ask is first awareness, observe. Are we balanced? Are we imbalanced? So Kappa, water and earth, when you combine them in their balanced state, amazing energy. It brings steadiness, consistency, a sense of loyalty and strength. We feel grounded and supportive and even loving. Content. And then in the body, we just have the sense of relaxation, we're calm, and we're patient. And then when we're imbalanced, so if there's too much water and earth, can you feel that heaviness already? That sense of dullness, inert, perhaps clinginess, a sense of attachment to our favorite family and friends or things. We may even feel congested, we may gain weight, we may start to think mentally, being complacent or lethargic, and then we're overly protective. We resist change. So we're stuck in our own mud. So asking yourself, am I that? Am I balanced or am I imbalanced in this Kappa energy? And then taking note of that, then we say, let's then become conscious choice makers and explore some options. Let's look at some other ways of how we can activate ourselves into that more grounded way of being with Kappa energy. So asanas for Kappa, to balance this heaviness, the slow and the cold aspect of too much Kappa, we want to practice asanas that are more stimulating and heating. Can you feel the difference? Can you already start to categorize the different styles of yoga that you might have tried and why now it makes sense? Oh, now I know why I never liked that style or why I always loved that style, as we focus on the qualities that we're trying to balance. So the Kappa, the site, is going to be the chest. So anything that opens up the chest and the stomach and the chest in general are going to be great because that's where Kappa can tend to accumulate that water and earth. So if you're suffering from bronchitis, pneumonia, those types of constrictions like asthma, then consider doing more stimulating and chest opening styles of yoga. So for this, let's look at the different postures to be using for Kappa balancing. So we're going to look to do Ustrasana. Ustrasana, again, camel pose. A lot of people don't like this, right? How much time do we spend opening our chest and exposing our neck? It may feel very unsafe. So just check in with yourself and practice gently. But this is amazing to be able to sit on your knees, maybe with a cushioned mat, and then you can even put a block or something higher behind you and gently rest your hands there as we pull the shoulders back and ground into there as we're bringing in more space and opening that chest, allowing it to uncongest and start to circulate. Or bridge pose, if you want to setu bandha, amazing, beautiful posture where you're laying down, you're bending your knees, feet flat on the floor, and as your arms are laying sideways, you can gently lift your hips, making sure no pressure on your neck, and that is a gentle, stretch, extending the spine and pushing your shoulders down. Can you feel how it's just opening the chest in a very safe way? So trying those two, either camel posture and or setu bandha, bridge posture. So it's want to focus on the chest, opening it up, circulating the energy through the heart-centered aspect as we develop compassion for ourselves and others. So also we might consider that because we can get very dull and inactive with too much of the Kappa energy, we may also need to stimulate. So for a lot of Kappa energy folks, we may need to go and do the hot yoga, the vinyasa, the very challenging, the ashtanga, those that are going to get us going because we need to spark and crack that water and earth, mud. So we need to stimulate and we need to work on that flexibility. So for Kappa energy, we need to catch it earlier and be more sustained of opening the chest, circulation, flexibility, and energized styles of yoga. Oh my gosh, you guys, there is so much. So sun salutations, the general sun salutations, any kind of postures that are flowing would be great for Kappas to get that energy and circulation moving. So my dears, those are very quickly some ways to look at yoga through the qualities of the postures and our current state of balanced or imbalanced state of being, and then beginning to identify the best match for us right now. So what do you think? Yogas and doshas for dynamic balance. Woohoo! Beautiful. Okay. So as we're beginning to wrap it up, remembering our prakruti, we all are unique in our individual mind-body constitution, in our tendencies. These come from the universal elements and the qualities behind those, known as the Gunas, the 10 pairs of opposites. So how can we remember the characteristics of ourselves, and then in our state of imbalance, not if, but when life presents itself, how can we choose the style of yoga, the type of food, everything else that might get us to that state of balanced well-being? So I invite you now to just take a moment and see what is your Vikruti right now, your state of current lifestyle. Is your current lifestyle supporting your nature? And if you don't know your nature, just kind of reflect on how we shared and spoke about the different doshas. If you feel that you're in one of those imbalanced states or really resonate with some of the characteristics from the doshas, to know that, yes, that's me. I am fiery. I am earth. I am air. Knowing self, and then making time and space to reflect. How am I now? Where am I balanced? Where am I imbalanced? So again, Vata, to balance that, we need a practice that is calming, quieting, but also warming, because space and air can get too cool. And for Pitta, to douse that fire when it's in excess, the yoga practices and styles that best support this balancing will be calming and quieting, just like the Vata balancing. But now this is cooling. So now the practice has to be cooling, calming, quieting, and cooling for the Pitta. And then as we look at the Kappa energy, if it's too much of the water and earth, we then need to be balanced with a yoga practice that is more stimulating and warming. So stimulating and warming. And as we begin to see that each of us has a different need, let's honor and respect that, yes, it's so much fun to go to the same yoga class with our friends, but always ask yourself, take a moment to reflect afterwards and to recognize about an hour to 2 hours after you take a yoga class is the time to check in. Similar to after you eat a meal, we get really busy. We don't connect the effect of that practice with its overall impact in our mind and body. So at the end of the yoga class, I encourage everyone to pause and allow yourself to stay there and completely relax into the Shavasana, the last posture of a class, and allow all of the neural axon connections to take place in the brain, for the body to rejoice in the physical activity and the breath that is now in your body, to let it all come together as we're recreating this mind and body connection in the practice. And then just take a note to yourself 2 hours or so after class. How do you feel? Are you more energized? Are you more calm? Are you more grounded? Did this practice bring you into a greater state of balance, closer to your prakruti, your natural state of being? Or is it more air added to the Vata, more fire added to the Pitta, or more earth added to the Kappa, keeping us in the sameness, in the same way of showing up, in the same way of not tapping into those energies which have the potential to bring us greater balance? So that is it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed that brief introduction to the different styles and types of yogas. And I believe next month, I encourage you to join us once again on the second Wednesday of the month, August 11th at 12 noon Central Daylight Time. Next month will be on emotional freedom. And we're going to be looking at the universal needs and desire to be happy, looking at unmet needs and how we go about responding to life when our needs are unmet. So the 7 types or levels of conscious reaction, the biological responses to unmet needs. And then we're going to look at emotional toxicity and ways to practice conscious communication so that we approach our emotional needs in a conscious, loving, self-respecting way. Really important if we want to tap into our zest and hope, the two character strengths which are most highly associated by the Values in Action Institute to be associated with our ability to be happy and to experience this optimal state of wellness and flourish in our life. So emotional freedom, let's tap in how to increase our zest and connect with our hope next month. And please visit the calendar events for the San Antonio Public Library for the link. And thank you, everybody. As always, these are my main reference books for yoga and Ayurveda wisdom. And to connect with me, you can check out my website, ekhamlife.com. And I am on Facebook and LinkedIn at Maggie Gruskin. And I'm new on Instagram. You can join my conversations there, Lifestyles to Thrive. Thank you so much, everyone. And I think now I will turn it back over to Brooke for our Q&A session.